The great hall of the Nigma Empire was built from black stone that seemed to eat light. Thousands of warriors stood in perfect lines along the walls. Their armor was dark red, like dried blood. Their eyes glowed yellow in the shadows. At the far end of the hall, Emperor Jalkothen sat on a throne made of living metal that moved and shifted like a sleeping beast. Ambassador Vorshan walked slowly down the center of the hall. His species, the Velith, were known across the galaxy as peaceful beings. His skin was pale blue and covered with small lights that changed color with his emotions. Right now, those lights pulsed with worry and fear. He had traveled 17 days through hyperspace to deliver this warning. The Galactic Concord had sent him because they believed he could make the Emperor listen. Vorshan was not so sure. The Nigma were proud. They were hungry for conquest, and they had never lost a war. "You may speak," the Emperor said. His voice was deep and cold, like stones grinding together in the dark. Vorshan bowed low. "Great Emperor, I bring a message from the Galactic Concord. All 47 member species have asked me to speak with you today. We come to you not as enemies, but as friends who wish to prevent a terrible mistake." The Emperor's 4 eyes narrowed. "The Concord does not give orders to the Nigma Empire. We take what we need. We go where we wish. This has been our way for 1,000 generations. I understand, Emperor. And the Concord does not wish to give you orders." Vorshan raised his hand, and a holographic image appeared in the air. It showed a small blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. "We wish only to give you a warning. About this world. About the species that lives there." Several Nigma officers laughed. The planet looked tiny and weak in the hologram. "This world is called Earth by its people," Vorshan continued. "The species calls themselves humans. They have not yet traveled beyond their own solar system. Their technology is primitive compared to yours. They still use chemical rockets and simple computers." The Emperor leaned forward slightly. "Then why should we care about them? If they are so weak, they will fall easily when we arrive." "That is exactly what the Krethvor Hive believed," Vorshan said quietly. 70 years ago, the Hive sent a harvesting fleet to Earth. 10,000 ships. 2 million soldiers. They expected to strip the planet bare within a single rotation. Silence fell over the Great Hall. Everyone knew about the Krethvor Hive. They had been one of the most feared species in the galaxy. Their swarms had consumed entire civilizations. "The Hive no longer exists," Vorshan said. "Their homeworld is empty. Their colonies are dust. The humans did not just defeat them. They hunted them across 3 star systems until not a single Krethvor remained alive." A general near the throne spoke up. "Impossible. The humans had no starships. You said so yourself." "They did not have starships when the Hive arrived," Vorshan agreed. "They built them. In less than 2 of their years, they reverse-engineered Krethvor technology and created their own fleet. Then they came for revenge." The Emperor's claws tapped against his throne. "An interesting story. But the Krethvor were insects. They fought without strategy or intelligence. The Nigma are different." "The Machine Collective thought the same thing," Vorshan said. "They were not insects. They were artificial intelligences with processing power beyond anything organic life could match. 40 years ago, they calculated that humans were a threat and tried to destroy Earth with a planet-killing weapon." "And?" the Emperor asked. "A group of humans flew a ship directly into the weapon. They sacrificed themselves to destroy it. Then the humans found a way to send a virus into the Collective's network. Every machine in the Collective went dark within 6 hours. Billions of artificial minds, erased in a single day." Vorshan's lights were pulsing faster now. "Emperor, I have studied humans for most of my life. I have read their history. I have watched their wars, and I must tell you something that is very difficult to explain." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Most species in the galaxy are logical. When a war becomes too costly, they surrender. When an enemy is too strong, they retreat. This is how survival works. This is how civilization works. Humans do not follow this logic. They will fight when they cannot win. They will keep fighting when they have already lost. They have a concept they call dying on your feet. They would rather be destroyed completely than surrender. And when they fight, they do not fight like soldiers. They fight like something that has nothing left to lose." The Emperor rose from his throne. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with arms that could crush stone. "You speak of them as if they were monsters." "No, Emperor. Monsters can be understood. Monsters follow patterns. Humans are something else. Vorshan took a deep breath. I have seen recordings of human soldiers charging into certain death while singing. I have seen humans set themselves on fire to take enemies with them. I have seen mothers pick up weapons and fight beside soldiers to protect their children. They do not fight because they think they will win. They fight because fighting is what they are. Emperor Zhal Kothen walked down the steps from his throne. He stopped directly in front of Vorshan, towering over the small ambassador. The conquered has protected this species, the emperor said. You have declared them off limits. Why? Because we are afraid of what they might become if the galaxy keeps attacking them, Vorshan admitted. Right now, they stay on their world. They do not want to conquer. They do not want war. They just want to live in peace. But every time someone attacks them, they grow stronger. They learn, they adapt, and they remember. Vorshan looked up at the emperor. If you attack Earth, you might win the first battle. You might even take the planet, but you will not destroy them. And they will never, ever stop coming for you. The emperor stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a terrible sound, like bones breaking. The Nigma Empire has conquered 600 worlds. We have broken species far more powerful than these humans. Your Concord's fear is weakness, Ambassador. And weakness has no place in our empire. He turned and walked back to his throne. Admiral Kethrios, prepare the Third Fleet. I want this Earth conquered within 30 days. Show the galaxy what happens when primitives are placed above their station. Vorshan closed his eyes. He had failed. Emperor, he said softly, I must tell you one more thing. When we warn species about humanity, we always end with the same words. I will say them now, and I hope you will remember them in the days to come. He looked up at the throne. Do not stand against humanity, or you will not survive. The Emperor waved his hand. Remove him. Guards grabbed Vorshan and dragged him toward the door. As he left, he transmitted a single message to the Galactic Concord headquarters. The Nigma have been warned. They did not listen. Begin recording. Another extinction event has begun. Admiral Kethrios stood on the bridge of the inevitable conquest and watched the stars stretch into lines of light. The ship was enormous, nearly 3 kilometers long, with weapons powerful enough to burn continents. Behind him, through the massive viewing window, he could see the rest of the Third Fleet following in perfect formation. 400 warships, 50,000 soldiers, enough firepower to crack a planet in half. The hyperspace journey had taken 12 days. In that time, Kethrios had studied everything the Nigma knew about humans. It was not much. The species was young, only a few 100,000 years old. They had only developed technology in the last tiny fraction of their existence. They fought wars against each other constantly. They were divided into hundreds of different nations that could not agree on anything. Kethrios found it difficult to believe that such a chaotic species could threaten the Nigma Empire. The ambassador's warnings seemed like the fearful talk of weak species who had never tasted true conquest. Admiral, we are approaching the target system, his navigation officer reported. Dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds. All ships to battle positions, Kethrios commanded. Not that we will need them. The stars snapped back into points of light. Before them hung a small yellow star, and orbiting it, a blue and green planet covered in white clouds. Earth looked peaceful, beautiful, even. It was hard to imagine anything dangerous living there. Begin scanning, Kethrios ordered. His tactical officer studied the screens for several minutes. When he finally spoke, there was amusement in his voice. Admiral, their defenses are even more primitive than we expected. They have a few thousand satellites in orbit, but most are for communication. Their weapons are chemical and nuclear, with very short range. Their fastest ships use ion propulsion and would take years to reach us. Any sign of the technology they supposedly stole from the Krithvor? Negative, Admiral. If they ever had advanced weapons, they must have used them all in that war. I detect nothing that could threaten our ships. Kethrios allowed himself a small smile. The Concord protected this species for nothing. Open a channel to the planet. Broadcast on all frequencies. A light blinked green. Kethrios straightened his uniform and spoke in a voice that had demanded the surrender of 100 worlds. Attention. Primitive species designated human. I am Admiral Kethrios of the Nigma Empire Third Fleet. Your planet and all its resources are now property of the Empire. You will immediately cease all military activity and prepare for occupation. Any resistance will be punished with orbital bombardment. You have 1 hour to respond with your unconditional surrender. He cut the transmission and turned to his officers. Begin deploying the drop pods. I want troops on the ground within 2 hours. Target their largest military installations first. For 17 minutes, the humans did not respond. Kethrios watched the planet turn slowly below him. Perhaps they were too shocked to answer. Perhaps their leaders were arguing about what to do. It did not matter. The outcome would be the same. Then the communication screen activated. A human female appeared on the display. She wore a dark blue uniform with gold decorations on the shoulders. Her hair was black and pulled back tightly from her face. Her eyes were dark and completely calm. Behind her, Kethrios could see other humans moving quickly, working at computer stations. This is Admiral Chen Wei of United Earth Defense Command, the human said. Her voice was flat and cold, like ice cracking. You have entered human space without permission. You have threatened our world and our people. I am authorized to give you one chance to withdraw. Kethrios laughed. You are authorized? Little creature, you have no authority here. You have no power. Your planet will be harvested whether you agree or not. Admiral Chen Wei did not react to the insult. Her expression did not change at all. I understand your position, Admiral. Now understand mine. Earth is our home. It is the only home we have ever known. Every human being alive today was born on that world. Our parents are buried there. Our children play in its fields. She leaned forward slightly. We will not surrender it. Not to you. Not to anyone. Not ever. Then you will die, Kethrios said simply. Some of us will, Chen Wei agreed. Many of us. Probably. But you need to understand something about humans, Admiral. We have fought wars for thousands of years. We have killed each other by the millions. We have destroyed our own cities, poisoned our own lands, committed terrible crimes against our own species. Her eyes seemed to grow darker. And we are very, very good at it. We have studied war. We have perfected war. It is in our blood and our bones. Every child on Earth grows up hearing stories of battles and heroes and sacrifices. We do not fear death. We do not fear pain. We fear only one thing: losing what we love. She straightened. You have 1 hour to withdraw your fleet from our solar system. If you do not, we will consider this an act of war. And you should know one thing about humanity, Admiral. She paused. We have never lost a war we were determined to win. The screen went dark. Kethrios stared at the blank display for a moment. Something about the human's words bothered him. Not the threats. He had heard threats from 100 species before they were conquered. It was something else. The complete lack of fear in her voice. The absolute certainty. He pushed the feeling aside. Launch the drop pods. Begin bombardment of military targets. Show them what the Nigma Empire does to species that refuse to submit. 300 drop pods fell from the fleet, burning through Earth's atmosphere like metal rain. Each pod carried 50 soldiers, the elite warriors of the Nigma Empire. They would secure landing zones, eliminate resistance, and prepare the way for full occupation. Plasma cannons on the warships charged and fired. Beams of superheated energy struck military bases in several different countries. Explosions bloomed across the planet's surface. In minutes, dozens of human military installations were reduced to ash. Bombardment successful, the tactical officer reported. Enemy military capability reduced by approximately 15%. Drop pods will reach the surface in 7 minutes. Kethrios nodded with satisfaction. This was how conquest worked. Swift, brutal, efficient. The humans would learn their place soon enough. On the planet below, warning sirens screamed across every continent. People ran for shelters. Governments declared states of emergency. Religious leaders called for prayers. But in military bases around the world, something else was happening. Soldiers were not panicking. They were preparing. Weapons were being loaded. Vehicles were being fueled. Orders were being given through encrypted channels. Admiral Chen Wei stood in the command center beneath a mountain in China and watched the drop pods descend on her screens. She thought about her daughter, safe in a bunker far away. She thought about her husband, who had died in a car accident 3 years ago. She thought about everything humanity had built over thousands of years. Then she picked up her communicator and spoke 3 words to every military unit on Earth. Weapons free. Everywhere. The humans did not evacuate. They did not hide. They did not surrender. They prepared to do what humans had always done when someone tried to take their home. They prepared to fight. Ground Commander Vex Ral had conquered 11 worlds before Earth. He had fought in jungles where the trees tried to eat his soldiers. He had battled machines that rebuilt themselves from any damage. He had faced species with poison, blood, and acid spit. Nothing had prepared him for humans. The drop pod landed hard in the middle of a human city. The buildings around him were made of glass and steel, tall and shining in the sun. Vex Ral kicked open the pod door and led his soldiers out into the street. 50 elite warriors, each one trained since childhood for exactly this moment. For a few seconds, everything was quiet. The street was empty. Papers blew in the wind from the broken windows. A vehicle sat abandoned in the middle of the road, its door hanging open. Vex Ral could hear distant explosions from the orbital bombardment. "Spread out," he ordered. "Secure this area. Kill any humans who resist. Capture the rest for processing." His soldiers moved forward in perfect formation. They had done this hundreds of times before. The pattern was always the same. The local species would run, they would hide, they would cry and beg. Some would try to fight, but they would quickly realize they could not win. Then, they would surrender. The first shot came from a window on the 4th floor of a building to the left. The bullet punched through the helmet of the soldier next to Vex Ral and out the other side of his head. The body fell before anyone could react. "Contact!" Vex Ral shouted. "Return fire." Plasma beams sliced through the building, turning the entire 4th floor into an inferno. The shooting stopped. Vex Ral waited for more attackers to flee from the burning structure. No one fled. The building simply burned. "Commander," one of his soldiers said slowly. "I think the shooter was still inside." Before Vex Ral could respond, gunfire erupted from 3 different directions. More of his soldiers fell. The humans were not using advanced weapons. They were using simple metal projectiles fired from chemical explosives. But they were firing accurately, and they were firing constantly. Vex Ral dove behind the abandoned vehicle. "Where are they? How many?" "I count at least 30 shooters, Commander. They are positioned in buildings all around us. They must have been waiting for us to land. An ambush." Vex Ral felt something cold in his stomach. Primitive species did not set ambushes for superior forces. They ran, they hid. They did not attack first. "Call for air support," he ordered. "I cannot, Commander. The humans are jamming our communications." The next 3 hours were a nightmare. Vex Ral lost 42 of his 50 soldiers trying to advance 3 city blocks. Every building was a fortress. Every street was a kill zone. When his troops finally cleared a position, they found the humans had already moved to new locations, and they would not stop fighting. Vex Ral shot a human soldier in the chest with his plasma pistol. The wound should have been instantly fatal. Instead, the human looked down at the smoking hole in his body, looked back up at Vex Ral, and fired 6 more shots before finally collapsing. Another human, a female with a leg blown off below the knee, crawled toward a Nigma position dragging a bag of explosives. She detonated them when she reached the soldiers, killing herself and 4 warriors. A civilian, an old male with white hair, drove a vehicle full of fuel containers directly into a Nigma patrol. The explosion killed everyone within 50 meters. This was not war. This was something else. Something that Vex Ral had no name for. He finally managed to get a message through to the fleet in orbit. "Admiral, something is wrong. The humans are not surrendering. They are not retreating. They are not even trying to survive. They are just fighting. All of them. Soldiers, civilians, old, young. They are all fighting." Admiral Kethrios's response was immediate. "Commander, get control of your troops. They are primitives. Establish dominance and they will submit." "Admiral, with respect, you do not understand. I have seen a human on fire continue shooting until his body stopped working. I have seen children throwing rocks at our soldiers while we killed their parents. These creatures do not have survival instincts. They have something else." He paused, trying to find the right words. "They have hate, Admiral. Pure hate. And they are using it as a weapon." Across the planet, similar scenes were unfolding. The Nigma had landed 15,000 soldiers in the first wave. Within 24 hours, 3,000 were dead. Not captured, not wounded, dead. The humans were not interested in taking prisoners. Admiral Kethrios ordered his science team to study human history and psychology. He needed to understand what he was dealing with. The reports they gave him made his blood run cold. Humans had fought a war against themselves called World War II that killed over 70 million of their own species. They had invented weapons called nuclear bombs that could destroy entire cities. And they had actually used them on each other. They had developed chemical weapons, biological weapons, weapons designed to cause maximum suffering to their own kind. And throughout their history, they had celebrated warriors who chose death over surrender. They had songs about it, poems, entire religions based on the glory of dying in battle. There is a word in many human languages, the science officer reported. It is called spite. It means the desire to harm an enemy even when doing so provides no benefit to yourself. Humans will accept their own destruction if it means they can hurt those who threaten them. That is insanity, Kethrio said. No, Admiral. It is evolution. Humans developed in a world where everything was trying to kill them. Animals, weather, disease, each other. The ones who survived were the ones who refused to give up no matter what. The ones who would rather die fighting than live as prey. We are not fighting a civilization, Admiral. We are fighting a species of survivors. And they have decided that we are a threat to their survival. On the planet below, the human resistance continued to grow. Soldiers from different countries fought side by side for the first time in their history. Old enemies became allies overnight. Every weapon on the planet was being used, modified, or turned into something new. In a laboratory in Germany, scientists were taking apart a captured Nigma plasma rifle and learning how it worked. In a factory in China, workers were already building copies. In a hospital in Brazil, doctors were studying Nigma bodies to find weaknesses. And in bunkers and basements and hidden places all over the world, humans were recording messages to their families. They knew they might die. They knew their cities might burn, but they also knew something that the Nigma did not understand yet. Humans had been waiting for this moment for their entire existence. Every war, every conflict, every struggle had prepared them for the day when something from the stars would try to take their world. And they were ready. Admiral Chen Wei received reports from around the planet and allowed herself a small, cold smile. The invasion was brutal. The casualties were horrific, but the humans were learning faster than the Nigma expected. How long until the first orbital ships are ready? She asked. 72 hours, Admiral. She nodded. Then we hold for 72 hours. Tell everyone, every soldier, every civilian. We hold. The message spread across the planet in minutes. Hold. Just hold. Help is coming. And somewhere in the burning ruins of a city, Ground Commander Vexeral heard humans singing. Singing in the middle of a battle. Singing while their world burned around them. It was the most terrifying sound he had ever heard. Dr. Sarah Chen had not slept in 4 days. Her eyes burned. Her hands shook. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago and she had not noticed. None of that mattered. What mattered was the alien weapon lying in pieces on the table in front of her. The Nigma plasma rifle had been recovered from a battlefield in Australia. It had killed 17 soldiers before a young private managed to destroy its owner with a truck. Now it was the most valuable object on Earth. The power source is some kind of contained fusion reaction, Sarah said to her team. Her voice was rough from exhaustion and too much talking. The focusing crystal channels the plasma into a coherent beam. The targeting system uses a neural interface, but we can replace that with optical sensors. Her assistant, a young man named James, looked at her with wide eyes. Dr. Chen, we cannot possibly manufacture this technology. We do not have the materials. We do not have the equipment. We do not even fully understand the physics. Sarah grabbed him by the shoulders. Listen to me. There are aliens in orbit right now, burning our cities. There are soldiers dying every minute we stand here talking. We do not have time to understand everything. We just need to make it work. She pointed at the weapon. I do not care if it is ugly. I do not care if it only fires 3 times before it explodes. I need something that can hurt those ships. And I need it yesterday. Across the world, similar scenes were happening in laboratories, factories, and garages. Humans were taking apart every piece of alien technology they could capture. They were not trying to fully understand it. They were trying to use it. In Japan, an engineer discovered that Nigma anti-gravity generators could be connected to human power systems with a few modifications. Within hours, the plans were shared with every nation on Earth. In Russia, a team of hackers broke into the communication system of a crashed Nigma ship and began learning how to jam their signals more effectively. In Kenya, A farmer noticed that Nigma soldiers seemed to have trouble in high heat. She shared this information with military commanders, who began planning attacks in desert regions. The humans were not smarter than the Nigma. They were not stronger or faster. But they had one advantage that the aliens did not expect. They were desperate, and desperate humans did impossible things. Admiral Kethrios watched the reports come in with growing unease. His invasion was not failing exactly. His forces controlled several major population centers. His ships still dominated orbit, but the humans were not breaking. They were adapting. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "we have lost another ground force. 300 soldiers ambushed in a mountain region called the Alps. The humans used explosives to trigger avalanches. They dropped mountains on us?" "Yes, Admiral. They also appear to be poisoning water supplies in areas we control, destroying infrastructure before we can use it, and launching suicide attacks on our supply lines." Kethrios slammed his fist against the command console. "They are destroying their own planet to hurt us." "Yes, Admiral. Their strategy seems to be making the conquest as expensive as possible. They know they cannot defeat us directly, so they are trying to make us bleed. Send more troops. Increase bombardment. Break them." "Admiral, we have already lost 7,000 soldiers. If we continue at this rate, we will run out of ground forces before we secure the planet." Kethrios stared at the planet below. Blue and green and beautiful, now scarred with the black marks of bombardment. The humans had been fighting for only 6 days, and they had already killed nearly half of his invasion force. This was not how conquest was supposed to work. Then the sensors detected something new. "Admiral, contact rising from the planet's surface." "Multiple contacts. They appear to be ships." "What kind of ships?" "Unknown configuration. They are using a combination of human rocket technology and..." "Admiral, they have Nigma anti-gravity systems. They have built ships using our own technology." On the main screen, Kethrios watched 17 small ships rise from Earth's atmosphere. They were ugly, misshapen. They looked like they had been welded together from pieces of different machines. Some had visible patches where hull damage had been repaired with whatever material was available. But they were flying, and they were armed. "This is impossible," the tactical officer whispered. "They have had our technology for 6 days. 6 days. It takes our engineers years to build a new ship design. They are not building properly designed ships," Kethrios realized. "They are building weapons with engines attached. They do not care about safety. They do not care about efficiency. They just want to fight." The human ships opened fire. Their weapons were crude versions of Nigma plasma cannons, poorly calibrated and probably dangerous to their own operators. But they worked. Beams of energy slammed into the shields of the nearest Nigma warship. "Return fire. Destroy them." The Nigma fleet responded with overwhelming force. 3 human ships were destroyed in the first exchange, their crews dying in balls of fire. 12 more ships launched from Earth to replace them. The human ships did not try to fight smart. They did not use tactics or formations. They simply charged directly at the Nigma fleet, firing everything they had. When their weapons overheated, they kept firing. When their engines failed, they used the momentum to continue the attack. One human ship, its weapons destroyed, flew directly into a Nigma cruiser and detonated its own power core. The explosion tore through both vessels, killing everyone aboard. "They are insane," the tactical officer said. "They are throwing their lives away." "No," Kethrios said slowly. "They are buying time. Look at the planet." On the surface, dozens more ships were being constructed. Factories that had once built cars were now building weapons. Power plants were being converted to charge plasma systems. Every human on the planet seemed to be working toward a single goal. They are building an army. Right now, while we watch, the space battle continued for hours. The humans lost ship after ship, but they kept coming. And with each engagement, they got better. They learned from their mistakes. They modified their tactics. They shared information instantly across their entire fleet. By the end of the first day of space combat, the Nigma had lost 12 ships. Not major warships, but cruisers and destroyers that should have easily defeated the primitive human vessels. Admiral Kethrios looked at the casualty reports and felt something he had not felt in decades of conquest: fear. On Earth, Admiral Chen Wei watched the battle from her command center. The losses were terrible. Good people, brave people, dying in ships that were barely holding together. But they were buying the time that Earth needed. "How many ships will be ready tomorrow?" she asked. 47, Admiral. "And the day after that?" "Over 100. Chenwei nodded. "Send a message to the fleet commanders. Tell them their sacrifice will not be forgotten. Tell them to keep fighting." She paused, then added, "And tell them that Earth is proud of every single one of them." In the burning ships above Earth, human pilots received the message. Some of them smiled. Some of them cried. All of them kept fighting. They were humans. This was what they did. And somewhere in the fleet, someone began to sing. It was an old song, a song about never giving up, about fighting against impossible odds. Other voices joined in, transmitted across radio frequencies, until the song filled the space between the warships. On the bridge of the inevitable conquest, Admiral Kethrios heard the singing through intercepted communications. He did not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. The humans were not going to stop, no matter what he did, no matter how many he killed. They were never going to stop. And for the first time in his life, Admiral Kethrios wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. The inevitable conquest was dying. Fire burned in 100 compartments. The great engines that had carried the ship across the galaxy were silent. Emergency lights flickered red through corridors filled with smoke and bodies. The most powerful warship in the Nigma Third Fleet was now nothing more than a floating tomb. Admiral Kethrios stood on the ruined bridge and watched his empire crumble. Of the 400 ships that had arrived at Earth 32 days ago, only 19 remained. Most were damaged. Many were trying to flee. None of them would escape. The human fleet surrounded them now. 200 ships, built from stolen technology and desperate hope. They were still ugly, still barely functional, but there were so many of them, and more launched from Earth every hour. "Admiral," his communications officer said weakly, blood dripping from a wound on his head, "the humans are requesting to board our vessel. Admiral Chenwei wants to speak with you personally." Kethrios looked around the bridge. His tactical officer was dead, killed when a plasma conduit exploded. His navigation officer was unconscious. Half of his crew was missing, probably dead somewhere in the burning ship. "Let them come," he said. "It does not matter anymore." The human boarding party cut through the bridge doors with plasma torches. They were not gentle about it. When the doors fell, Admiral Chenwei stepped through the smoke like a ghost. She looked different from the last time Kethrios had seen her on the view screen. There was a burn scar on the left side of her face, pink and shiny against her dark skin. Her uniform was torn and stained. She carried a weapon that looked like a hybrid of human and Nigma design. Behind her came human soldiers. They were wounded, tired, covered in blood and dirt, but their eyes were bright and their weapons were ready. These were not the same frightened primitives that Kethrios had expected to conquer. These were survivors of a war that should have been impossible to survive. "Admiral Kethrios," Chenwei said. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your soldiers are dead or captured. The war is over." Kethrios lowered himself to his knees, not out of submission but because his legs could no longer hold him. "How?" he asked. "You were primitives. Your technology was centuries behind ours. Your population was divided. You had no chance." Chenwei walked closer to him. She did not look angry or triumphant. She looked sad. "You want to know how we won?" she said. "I will tell you. We won because we had no choice. We won because surrender was never an option. We won because every human on Earth knew that we were fighting for everything we loved." She gestured at the soldiers behind her. "Do you see these people? 3 weeks ago, they were students, teachers, farmers, doctors. They had never held weapons. They had never killed anyone. But when you came to take our home, they became warriors. We are not a species of soldiers, Admiral. We are a species of survivors. We adapt. We endure. We refuse to die. And when something threatens our existence, we become the most dangerous thing in the universe." Kethrios shook his head slowly. "The ambassador warned us. Vorshan told us not to come here. He said we would not survive." "He was right," Chenwei said simply. She turned to look out the shattered viewports at the planet below. Earth was scarred now. Cities had been destroyed. Millions of people were dead. But the planet was still blue and green, still spinning, still alive. "We will remember this, Admiral. Not just the victory. We will remember the price we paid, the people we lost, The children who will never know their parents because of this war. She turned back to face him. But we will also remember something else. We will remember that the universe is dangerous, that we are not alone, and that we must be ready. What will happen to me? Kethrios asked. To my soldiers? You will be treated fairly. We do not torture prisoners. We do not commit genocide. We are not like you. Chenwei paused. We will send your survivors back to your empire with a message. Tell your emperor what happened here. Tell him what you saw. And tell him this. She leaned down until her face was close to his. If anyone comes to Earth with war, we will meet them with war. If anyone threatens our children, we will hunt them across the galaxy. We did not want this fight. We do not want to conquer anyone. We just want to live in peace. But if peace is not possible, we will choose victory. Every time. No matter the cost. She straightened. Do you understand? Kethrios nodded slowly. I understand. The surviving Nigma soldiers were gathered and placed on transport ships. Their wounded were treated. Their dead were collected with respect. The humans did not celebrate or mock them. They simply worked, efficiently and quietly, like people who had more important things to do. Before the transports left, Admiral Chenwei broadcast one final message to the entire galaxy on every frequency humans could access. This is Admiral Chenwei of United Earth Defense Command. 32 days ago, the Nigma Empire invaded our planet. They came with 400 warships and 50,000 soldiers. They expected us to surrender. We did not surrender. We fought. We bled. We died. And we won. Let this be a message to any civilization watching. Earth is not a prize to be conquered. It is not a resource to be harvested. It is our home. The only home we have. We do not seek war. We do not seek empire. We seek only the right to exist in peace. But if you bring war to our doorstep, know this. We will answer. We will fight with everything we have. And we will not stop until the threat is ended. You have been warned. 12 days later, Ambassador Vorshan added the final entry to the Nigma Empire file in the Galactic Concord archives. He wrote, Species provoked humanity. Species fleet destroyed. Empire expected to collapse within 10 years. He paused, then added a personal note. The humans showed mercy. They could have pursued the Nigma to their home systems and destroyed them completely. Instead, they let the survivors go with a warning. I do not know if this mercy makes them more or less terrifying. Perhaps both. One thing is certain. The Concord was right to protect them. They are not ready for the galaxy. But more importantly, the galaxy is not ready for them. When humanity finally reaches the stars, the universe will change forever. I only hope I am alive to see it. In the months that followed, the Nigma Empire crumbled. The species they had enslaved rebelled, armed with weapons that mysteriously appeared in their systems. Some said humans had provided them. No one could prove it. Emperor Zalcothen was overthrown by his own people. His last words, according to records, were, "The ambassador was right, we should have listened." On Earth, the rebuilding began. Cities were reconstructed. Monuments were built to the fallen. Children grew up hearing stories of the war, of the heroes who had fought and died to protect their world. And in laboratories and shipyards around the planet, humans kept building, kept learning, kept preparing, because now they knew the truth. The universe was vast and dark and full of dangers, and the only way to survive was to be ready. Admiral Chenwei stood on a balcony in Geneva and watched the sun set over a world that had nearly been destroyed. Her daughter stood beside her, holding her hand. "Mom?" the girl asked. "Will they come back? The aliens?" Chenwei looked down at her daughter and smiled. "Maybe someday. But if they do, we will be ready." "How do you know?" "Because that is what humans do. We get knocked down, and we get back up. We face impossible odds, and we find a way to win. It is who we are." She looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "And nobody, in this galaxy or any other, will ever take that from us." The stars looked back at her, cold and distant. But for the first time in human history, they did not seem quite so frightening. Because now, the universe knew something that it had never known before. Humans were out there, and they were not afraid.